Welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host, and I'd like to ask you, how clear are you about living in the complex geometries of life, and how do they feel to you? Do you use them? Do you find geometric tools to play with? Are we always seeking to harmonize through form? And how do we do that? And maybe a lot of you use sacred geometry and all kinds of geometric forms to imagine and to empower yourself. There are a lot of platonic solids that are very powerful, and we can learn to use them. And it goes deeper than that, even into fractal forms, and there's all kinds of harmonic form using the golden mean. And so there's so much that we can learn and practice in our lives that can enhance us. And to help us do a better job at that, I've asked an old friend of mine who is clearly indulged in this field professionally and as a whole life mission to really bring geometry to us. And she's a very old friend. We met about 25 years ago, and I've always been impressed with her dedication to this work. And so I'm so glad that she can talk with us. Tika Caldwell, welcome to Energy Stew.
Well, thank you, Peter, for having me. It's a delight to be here, and I'll look forward to the discussion we're getting ready to.
Good, me too. Because you've had a life of development of this. You know, it's like everywhere you've gone in life, you've kind of identified this purpose.
Well, and it starts a lot with you know, actually 27 years ago when we met. And it was at a very pivotal time in my life when my brother had just passed. And I had a broken heart. And before we got on the call, you know, you were talking about where we want to go with this conversation about how to empower people. And there's so much craziness going on in the world, and how do we discern what's what, you know, and who to trust and what to believe, and is it healthy and is it not healthy? And the answer that came to me is it's all within our heart, literally. The full spectrum harmonic light that is the same energy that is grace, that is the same energy that is love, that is the same energy as a full and balanced spectrum of all magnetic frequencies common to living systems, shows up emanating from the center of the center, which is a transcendental gateway. And I learned that from one of my teachers, Dr. Kareem. I've been trained in a art and science called biogeometry. And I know you were talking about how you love that word, you know, bio, life, or yes, geometry, shape. And everything ultimately is light and sound, but it is the shapes that are created, visible or invisible, or the angle or the rotation, shape, line, color, number, sound. These are all ways that energy and information is communicated throughout the energy field or the biofield.
Right, and the word information has the word form in it. And I've always believed that we communicate through form because form holds meaning. And so when we, let's say, speak telepathically, we're speaking in the code of form. And our brains know how to read form, and then they turn it into language.
Yes, and we can think about form as being visible or invisible, and we can think of about the way a wave propagates and energy or frequency or information moves, just as if we were to drop a pebble into a pond and we can see the ripple effect. Our thoughts create form in terms of the ripple effect or the compression waves that go into the energy field that is invisible, that is all around us.
Right.
The shape of the car that we are driving in, the shape of the phone, the angle of where two corners meet or don't meet, whether it's a 45 or a 90-degree angle, the shape of the wires on a circuit breaker panel, or a circuit board. Shape caused waves is one way that energy and information is communicated. And so when you were talking about sacred geometry or the fractal formation of nature and the golden mean, that is something that has really interested me my whole life, because I've always had a passion for nature and wanting to work with nature the way nature works. And at a very early age, I was confused about why I was seeing so much destruction of nature in my lifetime. And over these years, these many years of starting off in environmental studies and then having a ceramic studio and being a Montessori teacher and a Knowles student, all kinds of different things. The destruction of nature was something that troubled me from a very early age. And so now where I see we have less trees, more polluted water, more stress on the planet in a million different ways, and we all know what the problems are, so we don't necessarily need to enumerate them. My passion and purpose is to duplicate, to the best of my ability, that which is natural and already functional in terms of what nature does. And so Living Design Technology is a company that I have, and it's a technology that I started. And in essence, we've created tools that are clay. I had a clay company, so the art just kind of kept blooming, to have all the healthy frequencies of nature embedded in the tools, so that we can replicate the function of a tree. We can replicate the function of a flower. We can replicate the function of a grace-filled, loving human heart. We can replicate the coherence that the fractal formation of nature naturally creates, because the fractal has a function. And the
Right.
fractal function is to create a perfected distribution of electromagnetic energy charge, life force.
So what you're doing is you're using the essence of, let's call it math and geometry, to create reality. And that's why, for instance, in the film industry, they can create special effects in the film, throwing numbers into the computer, and the computer actually creates scenery. So we can actually rebuild life through math, and let the computer figure out how to make it look like what we want to look like.
Right, and you write code, and it, what is an algorithm? An algorithm is a freaking recipe. Okay, and
That's
so
right.
when you understand, are you wanting to bake a chocolate cake? Or you want, because I can remember in the early days looking up the definition of algorithm. It's a freaking recipe. And when you understand the language of the universe, you can begin to write a recipe that the intelligence of nature can recognize. Now, in our day and age, we're writing a lot of recipes for a lot of different things. And sometimes energy is the ability to do work. But there's two forms of energy. Well, there's many forms, but let's take it to two extremes. There's coherent energy, which is life supporting, and there's incoherent energy, which has the ability to do work. However, it is life depleting. And so we have a lot of energies in our world today that have the ability to do work, but on some level it's robbing Peter to pay Paul, because some of these recipes have been written with ingredients that do not include all the healthy frequencies of nature. So when all this information is being put out into the field to do work, and the results maybe of which we love, nature abhors a vacuum and is always creating homeostasis or a balance. So when we're putting out information into the field to get work done to create certain effects, but it's missing all the healthy magnetic frequencies of nature in that code, it's going to take it from the natural living systems near it to make balance. And
which is good. That's what we want. And that's why we need each other and we need nature.
Exactly. And so with the depletion of nature and the increase of a lot of technology that does not have the healthy magnetic frequencies as part of its code, we need to duplicate those healthy magnetic frequencies, in my opinion, so that it doesn't have to take it from you sitting in front of your computer, or it doesn't have to take it from you driving your electrical car. We can put more of the healthy frequencies of nature right next to you, in front of you on your computer in New York City. And we can put things in your car that duplicate those healthy magnetic frequencies so that actually it's creating a harmonic symphony,
right,
without having to deplete your energy field.
Right. So to bring harmony to it and to learn how to use geometry to create better harmony. And I'm thinking while you were talking, I was thinking of music and the fact that most people listen to music at 440 hertz, and that's disruptive. So most people are listening to recordings of music that are actually disruptive because they should be at 432 hertz, that's harmonic. And so there's some dark force at work that created this 440 that wasn't happy with harmony and wanted to challenge life on this planet by giving us the wrong kind of frequency in music. So it's discouraging that there's so much out there that actually you're listening to and it's upsetting you rather than helping you.
Hence why, I got so passionate about energy balancing all the fields that we are cohabitating with that are natural and unnatural, because, if you think about acupuncture, and I think about the earth as a living system, all these different electrical instruments that are generating the sending of all the information all over the planet, they're also kind of like an acupuncture needle that's also programming or influencing through the law of resonance the biofield of Mother Earth. And just like we have energy meridians in our body, the earth has energy meridians. And so when we have all this type of information being generated and sent all across the planet, there are places, I believe, in the Northeast where some electricity is coming up back out of the ground, and cows have been electrocuted by drinking the water, because the earth can only absorb so much incoherent energy. Okay. And so when we have a greater resonance of incoherent energy, whether it's coming through what we can see visibly or whether it's coming through the earth energy meridians, we have a responsibility, in my opinion, to work with nature the way nature works, so that we can keep up with all of our inventions and creations, so that we're maintaining balance and harmony with the ecosystem as much as taking care of ourselves.
Right. So that's why we have to be so conscious of what's going on in this world and how we're being influenced by all kinds of forces, and including words.
Including words. Absolutely. Words create worlds. And, living design and my work, I had a mentor for 14 years, and Shirley Sailors Clarkson, and she was one of the founding members of the Holistic Nurses Association. And she was the founder of the Agape Center in New Orleans. And I'm also a minister. I became a minister with her organization and also with the Alliance of Divine Love. And what it is, not in a naive way, because love is not a doing. Love is a vibration and love is a frequency. Love is coherent, multidimensional energy. And my work is not to create fear in other people to motivate them to do something because they're afraid. And I've had to learn, don't get so big into the problem and the solution in the old fear tactic ways, but if we can get into the curiosity and the learning and the joy and the understanding from a place of empowerment, from a place of joy, because it is the center of our heart that does emit a full and balanced spectrum of all magnetic frequencies common to living systems, that is an access for grace. And even though we may be inundated with so much quantum noise, as my trademark says, that's a government term, quantum noise, okay? Even though we can hold a very, very clear intention and we can send a very, very clear signal to the universe, so that when I had a broken heart 27 years ago, I met somebody like you that, even when I wasn't as developed as I am now, you began to open doors and share information and teach me about attunement and tuning in and how to communicate with the universe in the universal language. And I think this fundamental curiosity and heart's desire can propel us and compel us to discover many, many wonderful things that can bring grace, which raises our vibration, which then we can start to walk into a place of manifesting miracles or divine synchronicity.
I love that. And that's what you're doing. And you're working with tools and offering tools that allow us to come into better coherence, so that all of these functions are working better and talking to each other better.
Exactly. And it's really fun.
Well, of course. I mean, it's so satisfying. I love my life of bringing goodness to the world. And I'm flattered that I was so helpful to you so many years ago, when we were all still very naive compared to where we're at now, with what the world has gone through since then and what we've had to learn and put together and, develop opportunities to do better than ever.
Well, and that's a really good point, because for me, the living design technology started off as, they were called living prayer packets. And it started after the BP oil spill, when I'm from New Orleans, and my worst nightmare then was happening. And anything that you're kind of trying to do in the Gulf of Mexico is not going to be a scientific experiment when the BP oil spill is raging. Me and many other people did a lot of things what they could for the love of it, for the offering of it. And then my other biggest nightmare happened with Fukushima. Okay, and so the motivation to develop living design technology was a humanitarian effort. It was not a business plan, and it was driven by passion and purpose and really demanding divine intervention. demand.
Yeah, and I love that. And we should all trust serendipity and synchronicity to always be working for us in unexpected ways, and not, not in ways that are a straight line.
No, I mean, you never could have paid me $1 million, or put a gun to my head to say, you have to do this. I would have had to, say, pay me or shoot me, one or the other, because it's been a divinely guided and inspired mission. And I love being able to speak to people like you, that I can be so honest and open, because we are not just a human meat suit. We are a spirit within a temple that is called a human body. And why are we here but to grow and learn? And we live in a multidimensional universe. And we have been taught very little in the Western world about the multidimensionality of our nature. And what the living design technology does is, in electrical engineering terms, I was told, Tika, your tools do not change, a phone or a light or a cell phone tower. They simply change the way a living system can interact with it. The tools are stable. The environment is not. But when I learned my testing, and I was testing in the 7 planes, the mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, astral, causal, and divine planes, and I'm seeing all this quantum noise in higher planes. It's like, oh gosh, we really have a problem, because humans don't understand that what we are doing in the lower dimension also affects higher dimensions. As above, so below. Therefore, what is enlightenment? Or really, I've been told that it's to be the highest frequency in the lowest dimension. And the function of the living design tools, in pure, simple, naive terms, is to assist anchoring the grid of golden light for ascension, so that we are taking misaligned energy vortices and aligning the energy vortices so that they are congruent with the heart and congruent with our higher self and the higher dimensions of original source code. No other agenda. The universe or nature creates the coherence to balance and harmonize the subtle energy fields that may have been disrupted.
So, this is wonderful to have the opportunity to use these tools. You sent me some of your discs a while back, and I'm so grateful, and I've always had them right on my desk, and feel blessed by them all the time. And so we still have a few minutes left, and I want people to know where to reach you, how they can find tools for themselves.
Okay, well, livingdesigntechnology.com is our website. And if anybody wants to send me an email, they can go to contact us, and they can send an email to info@livingdesigntechnology.com. I have a couple assistants that help me wade through all of that. And if people are really interested, I do have information that's not on the website about some of the research that we've done with plants. Like we've grown kale with our clay powder that's infused with the living design frequencies, and the ones with and without the powder have a marked difference. We've grown sprouts on a Wi-Fi router with and without the living design technology, and it's amazing to see the pictures. And so I have some information that I share with people. And I also train people how to do the living design system and to do the testing. So we try to be very education oriented. We try to be very friendly. Sometimes we get a little overextended and people need to be patient with us, but we do really love hearing from people. And if they have questions about using the tools, they can always send us a question. But we have kits for harmonizing homes, apartments, cars. We have things to put on meters. It says it's a smart meter kit. It doesn't matter what kind of a meter it is. The stuff in the smart meter kit is just fabulously powerful for a million different applications. We have stickers for cell phones, and we have some new stuff that we're working on, infusing silicon mats and making insoles for shoes, because we've noticed that many people's physical balance and grounding improves tremendously when they're wearing living design technology or have their phone harmonized. So it's not just woo-woo. We're getting some very, very, very tangible results in terms of physical balance and grounding, because we are seeing that it's enhancing the cellular communication of living systems.
I love it. And I'm excited about potential of walking around with better balance, as I
Yeah,
seem to need.
yeah, I'm going to send you some so you can give it a whirl.
Good, thank you. Yeah, whirling isn't so simple for me at closing in on 80 right now, but I'm very happy to feel as young as I can.
Good. We'll have to send you some of that clay powder too.
Oh, thank you so much. And I love talking with you. You've been wonderful. There's so much information, and you really own the truths of who you are and what you're expressing. And I just really am fascinated by how dedicated you are.
Well, thank you. With a lot of help from people, like you, I've gotten this far, and we're going to go the next round as a team. It takes a village. And, just to end on this note, I really live in the skin of a student, and I prefer to think, of round table learning. And anybody who wants to learn about living design or participate, I'm always finding myself telling people I can have as much to learn from you as you may from me. I've gotten this far. I've managed to, by the grace of God, literally, because I have been working with ascended masters who very much guided this work. I cannot take all the credit, but I took the credit that at least I was willing to listen when the universe started knocking at my door.
Good.
And, everybody has something to teach and something to share. So as we keep learning together, the spirit of cooperation is where it's at, I believe.
Wonderful. Tika Caldwell, thank you so much for being a guest on Energy Stew. And I'm so happy to know you and be a good friend of yours.
Thank you. Likewise, Peter. Many blessings.
And this is Peter Roth, your host of Energy Stew at prn.live. I can be reached at peter@heartriver, HEART river.org. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks so much for listening.